I saw a poll a few weeks ago that asked an interesting question. What is the most iconic top 1 of all time? The list it gave was brief, only giving the options of Bloodlust, Tartarus, Tidal Wave, or Slaughterhouse. I thought it was a slam dunk question. To me, it was obviously Bloodlust. Its outstanding decoration, the climactic atmosphere, and its incredible legacy were too hard to match. Or maybe it was Tartarus, the level that technically had the longest amount of time as top 1, and a previously impossible level that set off one of the most epic races, with the entire purpose to dethrone itself. To my shock, the winner of the poll was not Bloodlust or Tartarus. It was, by a long shot, Slaughterhouse. So how does a level that is almost too recent to have a proper legacy, decoration well below subpar, a worn out theme, and gameplay that makes you want to run your head through a brick wall, beat out two of the most legendary levels of all time? Maybe we have to truly understand what makes a level legendary first. Let's go back to the first level of the current hardest difficulty, Demon Park. Probably most people who are watching this video have either beaten it, tried it, or at least heard of it. Yet with all of its fame and legendariness, is there a part that actually sticks out to you? Genuinely, can you actually consider any part of such a mythical level iconic? Okay, maybe whatever this is, but I think you get my point. So being iconic does not always correlate to being one of the most important levels of all time, or even being the one that started it all. To the Grave and Extreme Park have unfortunately suffered the same fate. There has to be another variable. And that's where we get to the next point, visuals. I think many of you will immediately be able to recognize Stereo Demoness. This, in my opinion, is the first iconic top 1. I can talk about how interesting the decoration is and how good it was for its time, but there's just one problem with this criteria. The visuals of Slaughterhouse on their own are completely generic and uninteresting. Look at all of these levels that are so much more interesting and visually awesome. I would even argue that Tartarus, a level that literally lowered its standards to those from an update years before Slaughterhouse was even dreamt of, is a much more visually outstanding level. That is saying a lot. Slaughterhouse actually is honestly less creative in its decoration than the Health Factory and Phobos. So legacy and decoration, even combined, can't even reach a level that has basically neither. This is where we get to the last controllable metric. Notice I said controllable because you're going to see something after I explain this. You can use to make a level. Atmosphere. Atmosphere is honestly a miracle drug in level creation, because you can take something incredibly basic and otherwise bland and turn it into something incredibly memorable. Now, atmosphere is probably not what you think it is. It actually boils down to another one of our senses, hearing. A level may have memorable gameplay and history, but ultimately, what I think really makes a level fun and something you can remember is how it uses its music. And honestly, that was something that made Bloodlust so cool to me. I loved the music and the level played off of it perfectly, even better than its original counterpart and its predecessors. If the Apocalyptic trilogy hadn't lost all of its hype in development and disappointed in difficulty, it would be in the same category. That raises another question though. Why do levels like APT, Wood Kid, and even one of my favorite levels of all time, Blade of Justice, have so many of these traits we've discussed and still failed? I think part of it may come down to difficulty, but I don't think that really gives us the full picture. If any of these levels had been as revolutionary in difficulty as Cataclysm, Bloodbath, Zodiac, or Tartarus, they would have certainly been iconic. Blade of Justice is the only one that somehow managed to stay well liked because it is genuinely such a good level. However, I would not even say Slaughterhouse is as revolutionary in difficulty as any of the levels I just listed. Within a year, 2 harder levels had been verified, 3 were placed above it, and it wasn't even the first to dethrone Tartarus. In fact, it was possibly at least the 5th level harder than Tartarus verified. But I think even if Riot hadn't paid off Rob Top in the Demon list to keep Tartarus at number 1, and if Space UK hadn't decided to terrorize the list by literally making up level placements, Slaughterhouse would similarly still be iconic. Why? Well, I think the most important factor is that it is a social phenomenon. especially among younger players who make up a vast majority of the player base. You see, Geometry Dash has actually seen a surge in popularity since the exposal of Space UK, which I don't mean to brag, but I knew it all along. You see, 2023 was a crazy year for the game. Not only did we witness the aforementioned exposal, but we also saw the anticipation and release of 2.2. You can even look at Google Trends. 2023 in comparison to the years before, it absolutely dwarfs all of them, and nothing has ever passed it up since. You can even see it on Steam as well. The player count built and then spiked upon the release of the biggest update the game has ever seen, and it gained a fairly sizable new base. Now we have 2026. I grant the player count is substantially larger, however that appears to mostly come from Jinxie, and I don't know how much of his base is actually here to stay. Besides the point, Slaughterhouse was incredibly iconic well before Jinxie touched the game. Him bringing his audience only raised hype to whatever levels were being talked about before. It also helps that Slaughterhouse spawned several spin-offs, including the best one made by me. And the fact Doggy is verifying was essentially its sequel helps a lot as well. Grief is probably the best level that shouldn't exist, but that's a discussion for another time. So the story goes like this. Geometry Dash is gaining its largest fan base yet, while the level Slaughterhouse is getting the spotlight for a multitude of reasons, and its atmosphere is really boosted by a unique song. It's honestly anticlimactic to think about how one of the most iconic levels in the game gets its reputation from new gens. However, I have been super biased against this level ever since it was placed at the number 1 spot, so maybe I'm being too harsh on it. I mean, honestly, Firework is just a much better top 1. As usual, tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.